Hi, I'm Andy Suman with Line to Line Coatings.
And I'm Mark Yeltsin, and on this particular video we're going to talk about how to order APC on various components. We've got another video that we're doing that will cover pistons in more detail, but on this one we're going to show you how to get APC on supercharger rotors, oil pumps.
We got turbos, scroll compressors, bearings, gerotor pumps, many kinds of devices. All of them, the key thing is getting the dimensions right. So we need to know the thickness of the material so that you can assemble this thing and get it moving easily. And then when you start operating the device, it's going to final fit itself.
So there's some basic trade-offs when you're using APC. So you need to balance your objectives in terms of, how much experience that you have using the coating on various components, the available time that you have for the coating to break in order to get the best result.
So for example, in volume manufacturing, everything needs to go down an assembly line or a process, and it's got to be specified to fit together easily. They can't have guys stepping to the side and but you may be able to, on your race car, spend some time fitting parts together. So you want to just figure out how you want to handle it, then tell us how much to put on.
So when in doubt, you can leave more room, a little bit more clearance with the coating, or just plan to have more time to be able to creep up on perfection.
So this is a two-dimensional side view of a coating, and you can see this is the roughness. Our coatings are typically fuzzy. You can scratch them with your fingernail usually, and as you start scratching with your fingernail, these little peaks get wider and wider, and it gets harder and harder to keep shrinking the part through abrasion. So what's going to happen is you want to get things moving. It can be tight and it can be too tight, but it's got to move. Then when you put it on your engine and get it up to speed and everything heats up and flexes, then you're going to do the final polishing operation. And once those forces between the parts get low enough, the wear stops. And then you've got perfectly fitting parts and protection on your components. You've got efficient pumps. You got great tribological properties on these coatings after they're broken in.
So when you're ordering APC for oil pumps, they're so tight that there's really not too much that you have to figure out in terms of coating thickness. We do coat spur gear pumps, gerotor pumps, and multi-stage pumps, which are essentially, multi-stages of a spur gear. The main thing there is that you clean everything after you've disassembled it, and when you're disassembling it, we don't want parts like the relief spring or anything else that can't go through an oven cure. Just make sure they're clean, send in all of your parts, we'll coat them to find the final fit, and send them back to you.
Yeah, when we send them back, you'll be able to, like on a gerotor pump, you'll be able to rotate it, but we're not going to fit the thickness in the housing. So you may have to take these and lap them. You can use a piece of notebook paper, or you can use fine grade emery cloth, depending on how far you got to go. And as you start tightening down the cover on this, if it binds it up, then you know that you're still a little too thick and you want to do a little something to free it up. Now if you can spin it by hand, but it still feels really tight, that's probably okay, because your engine is going to have no problem spinning it and you're going to have oil in it at that point. So usually we do all our fitting dry. You could wet sand if you're binding your sandpaper, or you can use some light oil, but normally it works great dry. Then when you oil it up, spin it, it'll finish fitting itself.
And if you have to do some of that hand fitting, please be sure and clean it afterwards to get any of that grit out of there before you do your final assembly and put it on your vehicle.
Yeah, an ultrasonic cleaner is always the best, but soap and water, and just be careful.
The first type of supercharger rotors we'd like to talk about are the OEM size non-tipped rotors. Typically on a set like this we would put approximately 4 or 5 thou thickness on each surface. Now you can also measure them if you want by putting a gauge in and rolling the unit to see where it fits and write that number on the back of the order form, and then we can target from there. And by gauge I mean a feeler gauge. But if you want the best performance, plan on going thicker and then do some hand fitting with emery paper. That'll give you the tightest sealing possible. Coating the case can make things work really good too.
So the bigger, more exotic blowers, like shown in the picture and the one on the bench over there, these guys have tip seals and seals on the side. So it may be harder to measure, but usually the guys that work on these things can steer us to the right thickness. You can put clay in there or feeler gauges, or just take a guess, put it together, and if it doesn't go together, you'll see where you need to remove material. It can take a lot of time, so we want to try to get it right in the beginning. So we have some standard recipes that we use, but feel free to steer us as you order it. Tell us, hey, I want 5 thousandths in the root and I want 7 thousandths on the tip. We can make some of those changes to help you with the fitting.
We can also coat the compressor side of a turbocharger. The best way is to send us the whole unit and we can do some preliminary fitting as we're applying the coating. Or you can measure the clearance with a feeler gauge or some clay, tell us what that gap is and how tight you want it to go. It may require some work to fit it with Scotch-Brite or emery paper when you are starting to reassemble the turbocharger housing.
We have a couple of applications for bearings. Usually people want a thin coating. It's usually about a half a thou goes inside these shells, or in cam bearings. Cam bearings you might want a little more depending on your setup. Tell us what you'd like. Other cases, like in vintage, we've done some build-up in here when you can't get a set of bearings, and we can put the abradables in there to take up a bunch of clearance, and that's usually on lower power, lower RPM applications. We don't really know the limits of power and RPM for the thicker stuff. Sometimes the oil will erode the thick coatings if it's spinning too fast, but it has worked great in some vintage stuff. So the other application for bearings, like shown up here, is if it's loose in your press fit, we can do the outside. You may be able to figure out how much material needs to be there added to get a snug fit again. Just like the bearings, when they go in a case like this guy, the aluminum case gets boogered up and then cleaned out, and then your bearing doesn't fit right. You can measure that, or we can coat it a little thick, and you can go, well, it doesn't fit, sand it down a little, oh, it's almost fitting, and you'll get it in there, and with a press fit, it'll stay.
Along with bearings, we've had customers who have also sent us cam caps along with their head and the cam shaft, where we've coated the caps, journals, and housing bores and been able to restore those. In that instance, just contact us and we'll figure out the appropriate thickness together.
Yeah, other applications like gears, you can measure your backlash. That'll give you some idea how much coating we should put on it if we're working on backlash. Scroll compressors and stuff like this is usually through a manufacturer, so it gets specified carefully. But we love new applications. We want to help you get your stuff running, and we love learning. So just give us a call and we will work with you to figure out if we have a solution.
So if you have a new application, contact us. Some things that help would be to know the temperature range, thickness, load condition, and surrounding components and metallurgy of the components that you're looking to coat.
Yeah, we can try anything. We love to help you achieve your goals, and we learn a lot on new applications. So, and we have a big variety of different coatings for all those conditions that Mark listed.
So whatever you're sending us to coat, disassemble it completely and clean it as best as possible. Try to make sure that it's oil and grease free, or we're going to have to charge a cleaning charge. Packaging is key. Heavy parts especially love to pound against each other in transit. So use a big box, adequate padding, cardboard separators if you can. Remember, it's better to be safe than sorry when you're sending your parts.
Here's an example of what not to do. These parts arrived at our shop. All the wrapping was off the individual parts, no cardboard dividers, so they were banging into each other. They were usable, so we did coat them and send them back. Everything worked out, but why take the risk? Get a good box, some good packaging, and send them in safe condition.
Thanks for watching, and we hope this helps if you're interested in ordering APC on any of these components. You can get more information at our website, linetolinecoatings.com.